Dad kicked me out until I said sorry to his precious favorites, my sister and her kid. I simply said, okay. By morning, I was gone, just like my account they used. What happened after that tore their whole world apart. They say blood is thicker than water, but in my case, money and manipulation proved thicker than both. I lived with my dad, my sister Jenna, and her 7-year-old son Milo for 3 years. Not because I was struggling to make it on my own, because they were. My dad was pushing retirement. Jenna hadn't worked in years. And Milo needed everything all at once: clothes, dentist visits, school fees, more clothes. I paid for more things in that house than I cared to admit. It started small, chipping in for the electricity. Then I was covering the Wi Fi. Next, it was groceries, then school supplies, then somehow I was the one paying for Netflix, the water bill, and the Costco runs. I even bought the bunk bed for Milo's room. They called it temporary help. It never ended. I didn't complain. I figured it was family and we were all just getting through a rough patch. But then came the record incident. Dad's prized vinyl collection. He kept them in a cabinet and never let anyone touch them. That day I got home from a brutal shift, opened the door, and found records spread across the floor. Black discs covered in neon marker. Milo was sitting in the middle of it all, legs crossed, uncapped Sharpies in both hands. I didn't yell. I asked him calmly who gave him the markers. He said Jenna had, that she told him to stay busy while she ran to the store. The entire living room looked like a toddler art studio. Jenna came home half an hour later and went ballistic. Not at Milo, at me. Said I had no right to question her son. Claimed I traumatized him. I was stunned. She wasn't even apologetic about the records, just launched into this tirade about how I was always judging her parenting. Dad walked in during the middle of it, looked at the wrecked records, then looked at me like I'd done it myself. Jenna turned on the waterworks and said, I made Milo cry. He stood there, arms crossed, and told me I needed to apologize. I thought he was joking. I waited for him to laugh or at least realized how backwards it all sounded. But no, he doubled down, said this wasn't the first time I had overstepped. I asked him straight up if he was serious. He said either I apologized or I left like that. No discussion. I'd been helping them for 3 years. Paid their bills, paid for their food, canceled dates because they needed rides, put my own debt on hold to buy things they needed. And now I was being kicked out because I wouldn't bow to my sister and her kid? So I said, okay. I packed that night, took my laptop, my documents, some clothes, and left everything else. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. By the time they woke up, I was gone. And so was the phone plan Jenna used. My name was on the account. Gone. The Wi-Fi, the Netflix, the Amazon Prime with the monthly deliveries, the utilities I'd been paying under my name, all set to cancel. Everything they used that came from me vanished like smoke. By noon, I had 20 messages. Jenna was furious. No data on her phone. Milo couldn't watch his cartoons. Dad called twice asking why the water was shut off. My cousin Jamie texted me confused because she'd heard some weird version of the story from Jenna. Something about me storming off in a rage. I ignored them all. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't just leaving, I was cutting them off completely. 3 days passed before Dad tried calling again. Jenna had already left 5 voicemails filled with half threats, half pleas. You didn't have to be so dramatic. Milo doesn't understand why you're being cruel. And my favorite, you need to grow up and come home. As if I was the child in this equation. I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to speak. And honestly, I had nothing left to say. What they didn't notice yet was how deep I'd been involved in keeping that house running. I didn't just help with bills, I had created an entire ecosystem around them. I was the one with the login for the insurance. I was the one who paid for the car tags, scheduled appointments, even reordered Jenna's contacts when she ran out. Every time they said Katie will take care of it, they weren't kidding. No, Katie was done. The first real hit came at the end of the week. Dad's electric bill was overdue and shut off within 48 hours. He called me in a panic, not even bothering with a greeting, just launched into a lecture about responsibility. I asked if he wanted me to apologize again. He hung up. Then Jenna's car insurance lapsed. Her car got towed from a parking lot. She called me crying, screaming that I had abandoned them. Told me Milo was scared because they had to walk home in the dark. I didn't answer that one either. Every week, something else unraveled. The fridge broke and no one was there to schedule a service. Milo's school lunch account was empty. Jenna's phone stopped working completely. They had no idea how many things had been quietly managed by me because I never bragged about it. I just did it. But the most ironic part, I had still been paying off debt from covering their lives. Credit card bills with their groceries on it, a $1,000 vet bill for their old dog that wasn't even mine. At one point, I was paying more towards their lives than I was spending on mine. And now they were scrambling. The house was cracking at the seams without me, and they were too stubborn to admit it. Then came the messages to the relatives. Apparently, Jenna had started reaching out to cousins, aunts, family, friends, anyone who'd listen, spinning a version of the story where I had walked out after a fight and abandoned family in a time of need. Left out the part where they gave me an ultimatum over a 7-year-old scribbling on irreplaceable records. One by one, people started texting me. Some curious, some siding with them, but a few, just a few, were actually asking what really happened. That's when I told Aunt Colleen everything. She was the one person I knew wouldn't fall for Jenna's performance. I laid it out from the beginning. How I'd supported them for years. How the expenses kept piling up. How I was kicked out for not apologizing to a child who destroyed something he couldn't have even touched. Colleen didn't reply right away. But when she did, she asked one question. Did you really cover all that for them? I sent her screenshots, receipts, payments, texts from Jenna asking for money. Even the last utility bill I paid. She responded with 3 words. I believe you. I thought that was the end of it. I had no idea what she would do next. But whatever it was going to change everything. Aunt Colleen didn't confront them directly, at least not right away. That's not her style. She works slow, quiet, but when she moves, it's like a freight train. You don't even see it coming until it hits. I thought maybe she just wanted to understand. Maybe she'd keep her distance from the whole mess. But then I got a text from my cousin Erica. She said, "Did you hear about the cruise?" I hadn't. Apparently, our big extended family was planning a summer cruise for next year. A massive 10-day trip. Alaska fjord the whole thing. Colleen was organizing it. She had already started putting people into groups, sending out booking links. Everyone was talking about it in the family group chat I wasn't a part of anymore. Thanks to Jenna. She'd removed me after her little campaign of playing the victim started. So I asked Erica if Dad, Jenna, and Milo were going too. Her response, nope, they're not invited. At first I thought maybe she meant they just hadn't booked yet, but no, Colleen had explicitly told the family that certain people were not welcome on the trip this time around. She didn't use names in the chat, but everyone knew. I didn't even know what to say. Then it got even weirder. A few days later, Dad showed up at my door. He didn't text first, just showed up holding a 6-pack of beer like it was supposed to smooth everything over. I didn't invite him in. He stood there awkwardly in the hallway, said he wanted to talk. He mentioned the cruise, said it was a misunderstanding. And Colleen was just overreacting because she was too sensitive to family drama. Then he said something that actually made me laugh. You know, if you could just clear things up with her, maybe she'd let it go. Let go? I didn't say much, just stared at him until he got the hint. He muttered something about Jenna not meaning to make things worse and that Milo missed me. That was rich. He left out for 5 minutes. 2 days later, Jenna tried calling. When I didn't answer, she left a voicemail that switched between apologizing and blaming me for turning the family against her. She said I was acting like a stranger, like I was the one tearing the family apart. I didn't respond. I had spent years being their safety net, the fixer, the one they leaned on whenever life got even slightly inconvenient. The second I needed a silver of respect, they booted me out and thought they'd get away with it. But now they were starting to feel it. Colleen wasn't done. She started reaching out to other relatives quietly, calmly, with facts. She'd seen the receipts. She'd done the math. She didn't raise her voice. She raised awareness. And the rest of the family, they started backing away from Dad and Jenna. Little by little, they weren't just losing money now, they were losing face. And for people like them, that was worse than anything I could have ever said. But the real hit that was still on its way, the twist didn't come from Jenna or Dad, come from Uncle Mark, the quiet one. He's always been in the background, rarely talks, never picks sides. I hadn't heard from him in months when he suddenly texted me, "Call me when you can." When I did, he skipped the greetings and hit me with, "Did they use your info for their tax returns?" I didn't even have to think. I already knew what he was getting at. A couple of years back, Jenna had talked to me into letting her claim some child tax credits under my name. Said it would help everyone in the house. Said it was temporary. I was naive and exhausted from working 2 jobs. I agreed. The return came. I never saw the money, and they kept asking for more help like nothing had changed. Mark told me a friend of his, someone who works in IRS compliance, flagged some irregular filings connected to Jenna and Dad. Wrong dependents, inconsistent income, my name tied to benefits I didn't qualify for. He wasn't warning me to scare me. He told me he was already helping clear my name from the mess. But then he added something I didn't expect. They knew what they were doing, Katie. That stuck with me. Later that week, Colleen hosted the family cruise planning night at her house. Everyone was invited except Dad, Jenna, and Milo, but of course they showed up anyway. Erica filled me in that night, texted me in all caps. Jenna barged in like nothing happened, started shouting about being left out, claiming I turned the whole family against her. Dad stood behind her, quiet but clearly letting her lead the charge. Jenna said it was wrong to punish Milo for grown-up drama. Colleen didn't yell. She just asked one question. Can you repay Katie for everything she paid for the last 3 years? The room went dead quiet. Jenna started to deflect. Dad mumbled something about it not being about money. That's when Mark stood up for the first time in years and placed a small stack of printed statements on the table. Utilities, groceries, phone bills, subscriptions, every one of them in my name. He didn't say much, he didn't have to. Colleen turned to them and said they were officially uninvited. Not because of me, but because they used me, lied about me, and they tried to make me the villain. She told them flat out until they paid back what they took and made things right, they weren't welcome on the cruise or at her home. Jenna started yelling. Dad just turned and left. No one followed them. That night I got flooded with messages again. Jenna alternating between apologies and accusations. Dad asking to talk. Even a short voice message from Milo saying he missed me. I didn't answer. They thought the worst thing I could do was walk away. But the worst thing I did was stop coming back. They went silent for a few days after the cruise meeting disaster. I guess there wasn't much left to say, but I knew it wasn't over. People like my dad and Jenna don't just disappear, they regroup. And they did it in the most pathetic way possible. They started trying to salvage their image, I heard from Erica that Jenna began texting family members individually trying to clear the air. She told them I was going through something and lashing out, that the record story had been exaggerated, and that my money wasn't really a big contribution. She even hinted that I might be having some kind of breakdown. But it didn't work, not this time, because Colleen had already shared the documents quietly with a handful of family members she's trusted, and Mark confirmed the tax mess was real and serious. So when Jenna tried to spin her usual sob story, people weren't buying it. Most of them didn't even respond. A few blocked her. Dad tried to call Colleen himself to clear things up, but she didn't answer. Neither did Mark. Then the final blow. Colleen sent out the official cruise itinerary. Flights, cabins, room pairings. I was listed in the big suite along with Erica, her husband, and a couple of cousins I actually liked. A little note at the bottom said, "All arrangements are final, no changes." Jenna's name wasn't on the list. Neither was Dad's. The message spread fast. I got a text from Jenna that night that said, "You really think this is fair? Milo was looking forward to it. He did nothing to you." Then another from Dad. "Whatever grudge you're holding, it's gone too far." That was the moment I knew they still didn't get it. After everything, after using me, lying to everyone, trying to shame me when it all fell apart, they still thought they were owed something. I replied for the first time in weeks. Just one word. Goodbye. Then I blocked them both. The next morning, I got a Venmo notification. Jenna had tried to send me $25. I almost laughed. Maybe it was some twisted peace offering, or maybe she was hoping it would start a conversation. Either way, I declined it. I didn't need their money, I never did. I just wanted my life back, and now I had it. The morning of the cruise, I woke up to the kind of silence I hadn't heard in years. No banging doors, no Milo cartoons blasting through the walls, no Jenna shouting across the house. Just my phone buzzing faintly on the nightstand. A new email, subject line, "You win." I didn't open it. I packed my bag slowly, savoring the stillness. My flight to the port city was at 10:40 a.m. Erica had already texted me from the airport with a selfie and a mimosa. "Vacation starts now," she wrote. Colleen had arranged everything. Flights, transfers, even matching luggage tags. I felt weirdly calm, like something was being sealed behind me as I zipped my suitcase shut. Just before I left the house, there was a knock at the door. 2 soft taps, like someone unsure they even wanted to be there. I didn't open it. I already knew. My phone buzzed again. A random number. "We're outside. Please talk to us. Just 5 minutes." I watched from the upstairs window as Dad and Jenna stood on the porch. Milo sitting in the backseat of the car, kicking his legs. I stood there for a while, just watching them exist in that space that used to be mine. Then I turned away. By the time I got to the terminal, everything had shifted. Laughter, sunlight, distant steel drums playing over the speakers. Erica ran up and hugged me like we hadn't seen each other a few weeks ago. Colleen handed me a folder with my itinerary and a shiny cruise badge with my name printed clean across it. She winked and said, "You made the right call." As we boarded, someone mentioned that Jenna had been calling other family members again, trying to guilt her way into sympathy. Said she was devastated about the cruise and how unfair it was that a child had to pay the price for a family disagreement. But this time, no one took the bait. Even the cousins who used to back her up had gone quiet. Colleen had already told everyone the truth quietly. No drama, just facts. And facts had a way of doing damage Jenna couldn't spin her way out of. That afternoon, we pulled away from the dock. Everyone leaned over the railing, taking photos, pointing at the open water. I stood back a little, drink in hand, watching the shoreline disappear. I thought about everything I'd carried for them financially, emotionally, and I thought about how they didn't realize until it was too late that I was the one keeping everything afloat. I didn't text them goodbye. I didn't unblock them. I didn't open the email. I just let the distance grow. Somewhere back home, They were sitting in that same old house. No power, no Wi Fi, no support, telling themselves I'd come around eventually. But I wouldn't. This cruise wasn't just a vacation. It was proof that I could live without them, that they couldn't function without me. And as the ship sailed farther out, I finally exhaled. Not because I'd won, but because I was free.